Well, is it time, Brian, to layeth the smacketh down?
Well, if not now, when?
Well, I guess it was Smackdown for August 4th, by the way, that red letter day. And honestly, this one was a lot easier to watch than some of them recently because we finally got a little LA Knight, just a soupçon, just a drava. But LA Knight opened up the show against Sheamus with the Brawling Brutes in his corner because, of course, they got the big, highly important SummerSlam Battle Royal, and they're trying to juice that thing up. But at least they've got the announcers now recognizing the LA Knight movement, as they call it, that's in front of their face, that there's thunderous chants and screaming and yelling and blah, blah, blah from the fans. And they let him cut a promo before the match when he came out. And the group of stooges, it's going to be in the Battle Royal. And then, again, the Brutes have been the baby faces, right? But every time that poor old Sheamus did anything, if he breathed on LA Knight, the people would boo him and they cheer everything that LA Knight does. But as soon as they get started with that, again, after 2 minutes, here comes Escobar and The Miz and Waller and Cross and Scarlett and AJ Styles and Mia. And the match is still going on, but all these people that they've already announced for the Battle Royal are coming out. And they go to the break on that. And they come back. And again, everybody's around the ring, but it's not really a lumberjack match because the Battle Royal is going to be everyone for themselves. So LA Knight is in the babyface position now where he has to fight back out of the heat and wins the 1-2, boom, 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 and does his LA Knight elbow. And they start doing their false finishes, but basically it was almost perfect. And then I felt so bad for him. It's live television. Sheamus goes to the top. And he's going to come off, but LA Knight tried the deal where he leaps up to the top rope from the middle of the ring in one charge, and he didn't quite get it. And he jumped right back up, but now Sheamus was off balance and lost his footing on a turnbuckle, and he pulled LA Knight off balance, and LA Knight goes over the top rope and drops feet first to the floor, but Sheamus falls off the fucking thing with his leg hung in it and just lands on his head. So that didn't look lovely. But as all the ringsiders, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask you, what did you think? Did you watch that a second time? Whose fault is that?
I watched it about 5.
Whose fault is that?
It was a group effort. Because you can't even say fault. LA Knight running from the middle of the ring and leaping up to the top rope. Those ropes are fucking, dodgy, and that's why it's an impressive move when he nails it. But at some point, you ain't going to quite get it. And he had both feet on the top rope, and he reached out to grab Sheamus, to steady himself, but he couldn't make it, and he dropped down.
Well, should Sheamus have been leaning forward instead of back?
Well, no, he did lean forward. He tried to lean forward, but LA Knight's balance, he didn't get it at first. But then when LA Knight popped back up, that's when Sheamus saw that he was going to, and he tried to lean over anyway, but as that's when LA Knight got back on the top. But then Sheamus was trying to get his feet under him so they could go anyway, and his fucking right foot slipped off the middle turnbuckle, which threw Sheamus's balance backwards, so it pulled LA Knight over the top rope with him.
My second question, as you review this here, did they handle the recovery as good as you could? It kind of worked in with the match, didn't it? And
well, yeah, because they both just sold and laid there, because why wouldn't you? And see, that's the only other thing worse when you fuck something up. If you hop right back up to your feet, that just even calls more attention to it. Because have you ever seen the funny skateboard videos, right? When some guy fucking really hurts himself and busts his ass, but there's not really people watching him, and he jumps back up to see it, looks around. Did anybody see that? That's what calls attention to it. So they sold, and all the ringsiders stood around and argued with each other. And that was the spot anyway, I guess, that Theory was going to jump Escobar. And then all the ringsiders get in a big fight. And Sheamus gets to give Miz the Bowery Beats or the Ballroom Blitz or whatever his thing is.
The Ballroom Blitz, really?
Well, yeah, it's even worse than the Bowery Beats. And then LA Knight hit his finish on Sheamus 1, 2, 3 and bailed out to the floor. So except for the bobble off the top rope, it was a good match. It wasn't long, but at least LA Knight is winning and beating top names now.
You think Sheamus has ever actually been to the Bowery?
I think he's seen a few Bowery Boys movies.
Maybe. I'd be impressed if he has, actually.
Actually, I would too. I don't think that the kids have that much taste these days.
Big show. This is SummerSlam weekend. Hot crowd. They open up with LA Knight. They have LA Knight go over. You get all the usual shenanigans you get before a big multi-man match or a ladder match or a Survivor Series or a Battle Royal where everyone's just there because, of course, including Scarlett, who's always around. But beyond that, they give LA Knight a win. It seems that they are finally leaning into it.
Hopefully they won't lean too hard and stumble and fall. Did you love the Cody and Brock history package?
It was good.
I don't know what the sad music was, but it sounded commercial. It didn't sound like something they did themselves. Do you have any idea, being a younger person than I am?
Oh, I don't remember what the music was. I didn't.
But it was sad music. They had the highlights of their matches and their angles, the things that Brock had done to Cody and him vowing to come back and climb the mountain. The editing was great. The promo lines they picked. This was good television. It made the match big and important. Like this is going to be the final chapter, the end of the saga. And it better be, at least for a while.
Should they become friends after this?
I don't know. Maybe Brandi could invite Brock on her cooking show.
He likes to kill things to cook.
There you go, and she likes to cook them.
All right.
I like the video.
Brandi and Brock.
Big match on SummerSlam. Yeah, Brandi and Brock coming to YouTube. Maybe it could be a ongoing series. And then we got Ridge and Butch. They'd just been out there, but they got a tag team match with Anderson and Gallows, where they went 3 minutes of the break, and then they came back and went a couple minutes, and suddenly out came Private Profits in suits that they got from Bobby Lashley last week, and they attacked everybody and beat up everybody in the fucking match and got disqualified, and Lashley came out and hugged them. So they have reformed the Hurt Business without the rest of the Hurt Business.
They need to get MVP into this. That's the one thing Bobby Lashley is missing still, is MVP. They worked so well together.
Somebody able to cut a promo is what this group is missing.
Someone who can cut a promo who's not going to have to work matches. Although he could, actually.
But that's not the most crucial point.
Right.
And then they did a Charlotte video and made her look like a star. She's on the yacht, champagne and the caviar and the fashionable clothes, and sunbathing herself from the drone shot on the roof of the boat or the yacht or the ship, or what would you quantify or call a conveyance from that class? It's bigger than a boat. It would be a ship.
It's a yacht. I would call that a yacht. Did the yacht leave the dock?
I don't think they went anywhere.
Yeah, she just sat on, okay, there's a boat just docked. I'll go hang out over there.
Well, you hear you're in town where they got a marina and there's a boat. You can go hang out on the boat. You don't have to go somewhere.
I don't know. You're trying to make it all glamorous. It's not like she's at the Mediterranean or something. She
was at the Star Point Fishing Camp in Byrdstown, Tennessee, and just went down to smell the bait. But no, this was like a modern Ric Flair video from the Crockett days with the private plane and the models. It makes her look like a star and a jet setter. So again, they're doing good videos.
Real quick, what do you think about the idea that Trish and Becky, as well as, I guess, Rhea, there's a lot of women not on SummerSlam that are in main event stuff right now, or not main event, but main roster,
right,
stuff that's getting pushed.
Well, I've heard people up in arms because Trish and Becky treat the WWE women better. Trish and Becky aren't on SummerSlam, but they're going to be on a live television program upcoming, either Raw or SmackDown. I can't remember. The point is, were they supposed to be on SummerSlam? Was this booked and announced and then taken away? Is that why people are up in arms?
Well, it seemed like they were booking it in that direction. Whether the talent were told that or not is another story, but it seemed like they were leaning in that direction.
If you're going to get the match on television, you don't even have to pay for it or watch the cock. Why are anybody arguing about that?
Well, I think, again, as the modern fan, a lot of fans feel for the talent because they won't have the opportunity to be on the main SummerSlam event, which is a big deal still. It's still one of the big four.
They're all on guarantees. I don't think they're going to miss any car payments. Anyway, apparently they're using Born to Be Wild for the SummerSlam plugs, and that's better than the off-brand and or modern music that we continue to be force-fed in a lot of these things. It brings me to mind of old Cactus Jack matches.
Isn't it crazy in 2023, one promotion uses Wild Thing and the other one's using Born to Be Wild?
Hey, it's the classics. They never go out of style.
No, they don't. I agree.
All right, well, we've got to the bloodline. And Paul Heyman was in the ring. He was reflective and somber, Paul Heyman. He was low-key. His jowls didn't even flap or wrinkle in the wind when he was talking.
Will you leave him alone for once?
He said, this is not what Roman Reigns wanted. It's the blame of Jey Uso for what happened to Jimmy. Roman didn't want all this to blow up. Roman doesn't want to fight this match. It's Jey's fault. He's to blame for what happened to Jimmy. And he fired up and he introduced the tribal combat video. And finally, we get to see some of the elders, even if it was in clips from past appearances or past comments. But Paul voiced over the video which explains or attempted to explain tribal combat, which was, they had highlights even of Peter Maivia and Rikishi and Alpha and Sika. And the rules, there's only one rule. And Brian, you're never going to guess what this rule is.
Don't be late for dinner.
Well, that was only Yokozuna's rule. The rule that exists in this match is there's got to be a winner, and that man will be tribal chief, and otherwise anything goes. So basically, anything goes, no disqualification. Don't know, it remains to be seen whether it's lazy booking.
It's tribal booking.
Tribal booking. So they go back to Paul in the ring, and he's starting to promo the match, and Jay's music interrupts, and here he comes to the ring. And he got wound up again, and he talked about all the things that he's going to do to Roman Reigns, and he's going to bring the passion and spirit of his ancestors, and he got whatted, but it works because he does the thing. I'm going to hit him with a chair. What? I'm going to hit him with a table. What? I'm going to,
Yeah.
So that works.
At this point, it's almost like they're doing it with him whenever he does it, because he's figured out how to conquer it.
Yes. Just say 4 words and put a period on it. And then jump in when they're catching their breath. But basically, Jay swore that he'd be the new champion tomorrow. That may have been far for a babyface to go. But nevertheless, when he does that, Solo's music plays, because now we got to hear from his little brother. And Solo comes to the ring. And Paul's holding him back like, don't hurt him. And Paul tells Jay that you done screwed up. And Jay tells Solo that, hey, you're my brother, and I'll always love you, but he tries to smarten Solo up to Paul. And what Paul's always doing, and he's always going to be lying to him and blah, blah, blah. And Solo starts looking at Paul suspiciously, and then Paul notices it. And he says, could I have a word with you? Off, like into the microphone, but like whispering. And then Solo won't go with him. Solo tells Paul to get out of the ring. And at that point, Jay super kicks Solo. Now, if I'd have been Jay, I might have waited to see if Solo was going to spike Paul a little longer. But they were probably running low on time. And after the super kick, Solo goes to the floor, and Jay tells Paul, tell my cousin I'll see him tomorrow, and tell my brother I'll see him later. and struts out of the ring. So our main event is Jay and Solo. How did you feel about this episode of As the Bloodline Turns?
I thought it was all right. I like this better than the match, to be honest. Heyman's so good. Jey Uso's really good. And I figure after SummerSlam, things have to change somehow. I don't know what it'll be. You got to figure Jimmy Uso's going to somehow get involved. I can't imagine he would turn on Jey at this point.
No.
Because then it would be illogical based on everything we've been through. But I also can't see Roman losing the belt right now.
No.
To Jey. But I also thought Roman was going to lose the belt at WrestleMania. I thought he should lose the belt at WrestleMania. And you know what? I'll say WWE were right. It's worked out okay.
Yeah, let me say that also. We were wrong about that at WrestleMania.
So we'll see what happens. But I feel like, SummerSlam is still one of the big four. Maybe I'm a traditionalist. I feel like you start stuff and you end stuff at the big events. It was traditional that coming out of WrestleMania was like a fresh start in a lot of ways for programs and feuds. Something has to happen different now. It's been since WrestleMania. No Sammy, no Kevin Owens. It's all been about Roman and the Usos with Solo. Something has to happen.
And what about if Aaron Solo was to come and say, hey, you stole my Solo gimmick? See, that would be a twist.
I am the real Solo. I'm going to paint an X over my face.
Or wait a minute. Hold on here. They could get Solo Sikoa. They could get Aaron Solo. And then we had a developmental guy named Solo that was a member of the Samoan family about 20 years ago in OVW for a little while.
His name was Solo?
I think it was.
You mean Manu?
I know. I don't. He was the one that looked like the little mini Rock.
Whatever happened to Manu? That guy showed up for on the main roster on Raw for 3 weeks, and then we've never seen ever again.
But they get all of them. They could say, I am Solo. I am Solo. I am Solo. Who's the real Solo?
You know what no one expects? What if the Tonga Kid runs in?
You're right. Nobody expects that. So anyway, we'll talk about the main event later on. Real quickly, Austin Theory wrestled Cameron Grimes briefly, and I like both these guys, and they did good shit, but they didn't do it long. As soon as the match starts, Escobar comes out with agents and referees and gets held in the aisle, and Grimes did a pretty good job for about 2.5 minutes of kicking the shit out of Theory and doing some nice moves, and then suddenly Theory knocked him off the top rope and hit his finish. 1, 2, 3 in about 3 minutes. So it was good stuff. Nobody bought Cameron Grimes' false finishes because they didn't believe he was going to beat Theory. But he was trying. And then Escobar came in and hit his finish on Theory and left. So at one point or another, everybody just gets laid the fuck out around here. Everybody's just even. There's nobody really got one over on anybody. They all just take turns.
Well, that's the problem here. It's good to see Austin Theory get a win. He needs it. But they've done nothing to establish Cameron Grimes as being special on the main roster. I mean, he's almost an afterthought. You forget he's there. And then all of a sudden, oh shit, Cameron Grimes is here. And he's a babyface.
Yeah.
We've seen what he could do in NXT. We've seen his personality. We've seen him as a heel. We've seen even him do comedy. There has to be something better to do with him on the main roster.
He needs more hair.
Well, they took his hair. They made him shave his chest hair. Well, I shouldn't say that.
He's not clean shaven now. It's just nicely groomed. But he needs to be the hairy son of a bitch that we came to know and love that was weird in NXT. Hair all over his body. Hair on his chest, hair on his back, hair on his chinny chin. I want some more hair.
Until Manscaped is back.
Yes, and then we can make him a project and make him a couple of dollars at the same time. And they announced apparently the Trump-sucking right-wing piece of shit Kid Rock is going to give us a segment we can skip on SummerSlam, since he's from Detroit and he needs work.
Well, the thing about Kid Rock, even beyond the politics and anything, I mean, he's not really a happening thing, and he's not like a legendary act to most people.
It's not puzzling. He's in the Hall of Fame because he sucks Trump's dick and Vince likes Trump because they both want to fucking show how much money they've got to each other. But in the meantime, he's got pictures of him on Twitter hugging that disgraced criminal piece of shit that's about to go to prison for the rest of his life. And before I would even shake hands with the man, I would demand he be fumigated. So that's a warning to all the people in the locker room at SummerSlam. Speaking of fumigation, Wallering with Waller was with Bayley and Io. What'd I miss?
Shotzi returned, but it was a fake Shotzi.
Fake Shotzi?
It ended up being Zelina Vega in the tank with the helmet over her head, so you couldn't tell it wasn't Shotzi. And then Shotzi showed up with her new hairdo, acting crazy, while the crowd sat there on their hands. And she took out scissors. I guess her thing now, kind of like Brutus the Barber Beefcake, he got his hair cut by Adrian Adonis, and then he came back and cut Adrian Adonis's hair, and then he became the barber. She's now, because she cut her own hair, her gimmick is she wants to cut someone else's hair. So she's trying to get Bayley's hair, and Bayley ran away.
Well, good for Bayley. But apparently, out of that, as a result, we got Zelina versus Io. Yeah.
I was running low on time, otherwise I would have watched.
Yeah. Okay, so time for the main event on SmackDown, Solo versus Uso. And again, you know, you mentioned it, you liked the promo better than the match. There wasn't anything wrong with this. It was, again, Solo and one of the Usos fighting. We've seen it a number of times. The story is where we're going rather than the match here. Solo's bigger and stronger. So strong, he uses a head palm shoot off on a grown adult man that wants to fight him back and kill him. But just put his hand on his head and whoo, off he goes. So they went to the break in about 3 minutes, and then they came back, and he got heat on Jay. Solo did, just dominated him, and then finally missed the ass in the face, and Jay made a comeback. Have you noticed all of the Samoan family are using the slap punches, and they're getting careless about it? To where it's just now, it's kind of see-through.
I've noticed it before, but now that you say it, you know, I guess I haven't realized how prevalent it is.
Because The Rock got away with it. So everybody thinks that they're The Rock now, but they ain't The Rock. And they're opening their hand too quick, and you can see it on the high-def, slow-mo DVRs we have now. We didn't have in 1999 when The Rock was working. And somebody needs to learn how to throw a punch with a closed fist, because it's embarrassing. But having said that, a couple false finishes, then Solo took over, called for the spike. Jay ducked it. They traded super kicks. Jay speared him, splashed him off the top, and beat him 1, 2, 3. And I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, well, I guess that put a period on that. But no, because Solo got right back up and attacked Jay, and they went to the floor, and Jay got a chair and just wore Solo out with it. And that put the period on it. And he's ready for Roman at SummerSlam tomorrow, as they did this today, as we're talking about this, and tomorrow when we'll be talking about it, when we finished watching this today. Does that make any sense?
Who knows if it makes any sense. Should Roman Reigns have been on this episode, the SmackDown before SummerSlam?
Well, what would he have done? What was there to do that hasn't already been done?
One last
Traditionally,
promo.
all the main event guys on a pay-per-view were on the show, because traditionally all the main event guys on a pay-per-view usually were full-time guys and at least made television. But, you know, unless they had something for him to do, I think the match is made and the match is there. We just got to figure out what they're going to do in the match. What do you think they'll do in the match?
I don't know. I don't know. I think Cody has to win. I think for this match, Roman, I can't imagine Roman losing. So that means Jay probably has to get screwed over somehow, because I don't know if you just want to have him beat clean after all this, because that's going to kill him cold.
Right.
Or traditionally it would.
There needs to be a lot of bells and whistles, smoke and mirrors, interference, cheating, conniving something.
I mean, we're all assuming
they can't just beat Jay.
See, the problem is we're all assuming, and you want to assume it's a safe assumption, but who knows, that he's going to be the champion through Mania. Like, it'll have to happen at least there, or at some point past another record, or whatever it may be. I don't know if Jey Uso's the guy to get it, but I guess that's what it comes down to. After Jey Uso, you say, what do you think will happen? My mind goes to, what do I think will happen after that? Like, where do I think they're going to go? Who are they going to introduce into this, if anyone? Because I feel like it has to, I mean, the circle of people in the universe of the Bloodline is getting smaller.
Yeah.
Something has to happen. I don't know what it'll be.
Oh, Cousin Jacob. All right. Anyway, we will find out by the end of this podcast, because by then we'll know, because all we do is record podcasts and watch wrestling. And sometimes we stop doing one to do the other. And that's what we're going to do now. Well, you know, Brian, as SmackDown is over with, it's 10 o'clock on the East Coast. And that's, time for all good boys and girls to be tucked into their beds. And that's where I went shortly after the program was over with. And thankfully, I got a wonderful night's sleep because of our friends at Helix Sleep and the mattresses that they provide. And as a matter of fact, there can be a big wrestling and mattress tie-in also, because think about this, folks, if you're an aspiring wrestler and you want to jump off the roof, you want to jump off your garage, you want to jump off a barn, you want to jump off a shed, you want to jump off anything, what better place for your collection of bones in whatever shape they're going to be in and whether they're going to be intact or not, after you come off that thing, what better mattress to fall into than a Helix Sleep mattress, custom made right here in the good old US of A. Brian, can you imagine if only Mick Foley had dove off the roof of his house onto a Helix Sleep mattress, he would have got to the WWF years before he did.
Maybe if Mick Foley had gone to sleep every night on a Helix mattress in his room, he would have had a good night's sleep, and instead of dreaming of Jimmy Snuka, he would have dreamt of an accountant or a lawyer and gone down that road.
No, he would have dreamt of a famous author, because he's already a best-selling author, and he did it by hand. Certainly, if he'd have started earlier, he could have got more practice. It could be Stephen King and Mick Foley. You never know.
Well, he's not a great novelist. He's a great author writing about his own time in wrestling. If he didn't have that time in wrestling because he didn't have time on a Helix Sleep mattress, then maybe he would have had no adventures. He would have had a boring life in Suffolk County. No books, no author.
No. Au contraire, mon frere. Because he's written children's stories. He's written witty compositions on Twitter. He's written
what?
Letters. I mean, he's a man of many talents. And I hesitate to think how great he could have become if he'd have been sleeping on a Helix mattress instead of in the backseat of his car going to wrestling school. But nevertheless, folks, you cannot make that same mistake. You can't. You can't do it. You've got to get a good night's sleep so that you can achieve your full potential. And no matter who you are, how big, how small, how fat, how skinny, how old, how young, how hot, how cold, Helix Sleep has a mattress for you, including the Helix Elite Collection. They got the 6 different mattress models. Every one of those comes with a 15-year manufacturer's warranty and the same 100-night trial as the rest of Helix mattresses, which are composed of, for the young ones, for the little kids, for the little whippersnappers, they got one of those. They got one for the portly people. They got something if you want to sleep on your back, on your side, on your face down in a pool of your own vomit. However, if you want to sleep
not
like
that.
A rock star.
Not like that. That's not recommended for breathing, let alone sleeping on a Helix Sleep mattress.
A lot of people dream of being able to sleep like a rock star.
Not like a dead rock star.
That's how most rock stars sleep. But folks, besides that, I mentioned the good old US of A because Helix supports military first responders, sometimes even second responders if it's a big enough deal. Teachers and students, you get a special discount. And they own their own manufacturing facility. And we have talked about this before. Each Helix mattress is made by a team of skilled manufacturers. As a matter of fact, 3 of them are brothers, and the other guy's a close friend of theirs. He may be a cousin.
It's bigger than a team of 4, and we're not guaranteeing there's any sort of family involved in this.
They're very skilled. And once they took over that manufacturing, yes, the workers are. And once they took over that manufacturing facility, as a matter of fact, it used to be a little coffee making place. But every time that somebody tasted the coffee, they said, shit, that tastes like mud. And the people said, well, it was ground this morning. But now it's making mattresses. And you should never have to compromise on comfort, folks. Helix has mattresses that regulate your body temperature. Just you tell them what body temperature you want, and they'll send you a mattress to keep at that specific temperature. Now,
that's not the way it works.
I'd advise everybody stay above 88 degrees.
Yeah, that's not the way it works, but the way it works is it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that.
If your body temperature varies, because it helps regulate your body temperature, if your temperature's up and down, it'll stick you in the middle somewhere.
Well, everyone's had that uncomfortable moment in the middle of the night where for no good reason, like the bed is hot or something. You don't want that. Everyone wants the pillow to be cool. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. You wake up in a pool of sweat like 4 or 5 times a night.
You do?
Of course you do. Doesn't everybody?
I do not. You do?
Screaming and throwing things?
4 or 5 times a night.
Yeah. But that's why I had to take all the breakable stuff and put it far enough away I couldn't reach it from the bed.
Well, luckily now you have a Helix Sleep mattress. You don't have to worry about any of these problems. Now it's a good night's sleep every night with Helix Sleep.
Well, no, that is a good night's sleep for me. I still do that. Before I got the Helix, I was up all night. Anyway, and again, folks, there's nothing worse than going to a mattress store and laying down on one of those sampler mattresses that you know that hundreds of people have been in there. You don't know whether it's some guy with crotch rot or some woman... lice. Some woman could have not bothered to do her bodily hygiene for 5 or 6 years and sits on that thing and farts on it, whatever. Little Johnny dumb fuck has just come from rolling in a mud hole, and now he's going to plop down on it. And they probably, when you buy one from those stores, they probably send the tester out to somebody after a while when they change models. They just wrap it in cellophane and said that. None of that with Helix, folks. Anyway, all you got to do is go to helixsleep.com and you take a little quiz and you tell them how you like to sleep and what position, head up, head down, wherever the case, and whether or not your body temperature goes from glacial ice flow to burning inferno. And then they will suggest the mattresses that are best for you. And then, boom, you get it or you buy it on the site. And when you get it, in just a short period of time after that, it's in a nice little box. You can put it where you want it. You can open it up and watch it come to life. Bring the kids in, have them roast some marshmallows and watch this thing. It's an amazing process. And if you go to helixsleep.com, that's HELIX, sleep.com/JCE, they're offering 20% off all the mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners. So once you got the mattress, you barely even need the pillow. But if you got to have something to shove under your head or between your legs or under your hips or whichever position you want to get in, you're going to have 2 free pillows as well. helixsleep.com/JCE.